The Big 12 took down the ACC, the Big 10, and the SEC all in one weekend. That's good. This is Locked On Big 12.
You are Locked On Big 12, your daily podcast on the Big 12 Conference. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Happy Sunday, everybody. Welcome into Locked On Big 12. I'm Drake Toll from America's #1 Big 12 podcast, Locked On Big 12. Thank you for making this show your first listen every single day. At the time of recording, it is 1:05 Central Time. I stayed up the entire day doing nothing but watching Big 12 football for you. And I hope you're having an energized Sunday because this conference was really good yesterday. And maybe your team lost because a few of you did. And maybe your team got embarrassed in doing so because a few of you did. I'm going to get there, but I'm going to lead off the show by saying, if you thought the Big 12 had a bad weekend, an unsuccessful weekend, you weren't paying close enough attention. This was an epic Saturday, an epic Friday for the Big 12 from BYU to Arizona State. And that's where I'm going to start. Middle segment, we'll hit the bad. Off the riff here, we're going with the good. And the good is wins over multiple SEC opponents, a win over a Big Ten school, a top 25 road win against a Big Ten school, and beating the brakes off of SMU, which the brakes might be hyperbolic. However, you held them to 15 points and 0 touchdowns. The good. I am stunned with the defenses across this league. That goes for Arizona State, who was spectacularly good defensively for a majority of the game, especially against the pass when facing Mississippi State. And then again, you have new stars. Like, if I asked you, Cam Scadaboo, who that is, would you have known before this week? The dude went for 265 rushing yards in the game for Arizona State. That is absurd. Then turn on the Utah game against Baylor. And this was a win for both schools. 23-12, Baylor's defense looked pretty darn good. They were hyper competitive, which is shocking for a team that was 3-9 last year. For Utah, their defense made Baylor's quarterback look like he was a peewee little league, like he couldn't function. DeQuan Finn couldn't function. Now, if Cam Rising doesn't go down in that game, I'm sure Utah wins by a lot more points. And this goes to show that Zach Wilson's brother, Isaac, is not ready to be a college quarterback. Is that an indictment on him in his future? No, he's just a freshman quarterback who, as of today, Sunday, September 8th, is bad at football in the context of playing for a top 10 program in Utah. He is not going to win you games. The defense for Utah, elite. The defense for Baylor, really good. Namely when Rising went out, but they got into a groove. And my maybe biggest takeaway from that game, as I go game by game, is that Cam Rising has to be healthy or Utah cannot win a Big 12 championship. Also talking about wins, we got Arizona State, Scadaboo 262, officially 262 on the ground. He is going to wreak havoc in the Big 12. They'll be high on my Big 12 power rankings tomorrow. You should have closed the game out a little bit sooner, but you didn't. Then there's the Oklahoma State game. You allowed 600 yards. 416 passing yards to the quarterback at Arkansas that's an effective running back. You allowed their running back 149 yards and one of their receivers 164 yards. And you won the game. Winning matters. And Oklahoma State did that in the end, did in overtime, and the officiating crew was questionable at best. And Oklahoma State still overcame and won against an SEC opponent. Kansas State at Tulane. I was very surprised at how good Tulane still is without Willie Fritz. I underestimated them as an opponent for Kansas State. Their line play, offensively and defensively, was very good. Is Avery Johnson the Heisman-winning second coming of Colin Klein, this unreal, better than Will Howard, like Paul Bunyan character in college football? No. And we have to, I beg you, have to stop treating the guy like that. He's still young, and he's not that yet. But he did go on the road and help Kansas State get the win. And the defense for Kansas State was clutch. I loved this game. I love the Oklahoma State game. They were close, tightly contested, tough ball games. And both Kansas State and Oklahoma State very well could have lost, but they didn't. And that rocked. Arizona, 0 for 10 on third down. You won, so you're in the category of teams that won, but damn, dude. 22-10 to Northern Arizona? Got to clean that up. Defense looked much better this week than they did last week, though. I'll give you that. Iowa State. I am sitting in Principal Park, home of the Iowa Cubs in Des Moines last night, as the field goal's going through. And I look around and there's this pop. We call it a pop in Banana Ball where I work. And that's when you hear the crowd get loud and you go, oh, what was that? Like what made that pop? It was the field goal as people watched on their phones. I had my laptop pulled up, showing it to people. And you could see each section of Iowa State fans stand up, look across the stadium and see other Iowa State fans standing up, as there are plenty of Iowa people in the stands too, and to like pump the chest, fists in the air, pure rivalry. You did the same thing Oklahoma State and Kansas State did. You came back and you won. And it was thrilling. This is the kind of win that propels Rocco back to the second half was phenomenal. Jalen Noel, phenomenal. This is the win that propels Iowa State to be a Big 12 title contender. This is the win that so many years of this Campbell era, Iowa State has struggled to actually capture that early season defining, okay, even if it's not Iowa, that early season defining win. You take this into Big 12 play and segue into something very good. West Virginia, better. C.J. Donaldson, good. Finally. UCF, elite. KJ Jefferson, still not crazy, but RJ Harvey is. Kobe Hudson is. That's awesome. They're very high on my Big 12 power rankings. TCU, I like Josh Hoover. I said it. I think Josh Hoover is going to be a very good quarterback in this league moving forward. My rosebud thorn here. My roses go to Iowa State, Oklahoma State, Kansas State for getting wins like that. Arizona State for finding a way to close it out in the end. Teams like TCU that dominated opponents they're supposed to dominate. That's awesome. And the Big 12 on some pretty big stages looked great. Utah and Baylor defensively looked great. The narrative is changing that the Big 12's weak and bad. And the Utah crowd rocked. A lot of Big 12 crowds rocked. I'm excited this week to delve the more shows that we have to do so deeper into this conference and these games, because I've got a lot of thoughts on every game individually, and I wish I could go. I mean, this is just your Sports Center recap before I go into the bad stuff that happened, because I have to. On Locked On Big 12, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's show is brought to you by 5 Hour Energy. Dude, I am recording this show at 1:12 in the a.m. because 5 Hour Energy has gotten me here. All day I watch college football, and now we're talking about it. Tackle a to-do list. Drink one after lunch, before your workout. Whether you're watching sports, you can get in the zone with zero sugar, convenient portable size. Perfect pick-me-up for you. The 5 Hour Energy website has flavors like watermelon, tropical burst, grape, berry, and more. On the site, they even have an option to build your own 12-pack or 24-pack. You choose the flavors. 5hourenergy.com is the place to go. That's the number 5. hourenergy.com to get some 5 Hour Energy product today. Use my promo code LOCKEDONCFB to receive 20% off your order. This offer is only valid until September 30th on one order and cannot be used with other promotions. The code is not good on subscription orders. Go to 5hourenergy.com and do it today. While I was overall very impressed with the Big 12 Saturday, some of you sucked. Like, some of that was really tough to watch. Colorado, I need you to know, 3 years ago, I had no way. We're going to talk Texas Tech. We'll talk Colorado. We will go through Houston, that debacle of the officiating debacle where you could have won. Kansas, so disappointed in Kansas. Cincinnati, throw up all over yourself. Not everybody in the league was good this weekend. And some of you deserve to be called out. I think Colorado first. You get to go first. If you were a Colorado fan 3 years ago, you had no reason to brag. 2 winning seasons in 16 years. No reason to brag. And Colorado fans weren't braggadocious. Many of them were like, oh, yeah, had we stayed in the Big 12, maybe we could be more successful. And then something flipped. You hired a head coach who is a consummate D-bag. That's probably the best way I could put it. He's just not a very nice guy to like people in the public sphere. Like, you hear the stories about the him being a bad guy in the hallways and in the walls of Colorado, but now he's calling out reporters and doing stupid stuff out. And then, he's like, oh, well, the game was over, so I can take my son off the field. We're going to check on him. And I don't even know if I care that much about that. Overall, though, the dude just can't handle a football program. He can't handle people. He is displaying to you that this humble group of fans has been overtaken by a used car salesman. And now that's your identity. That's what you want to hit your wagon to. 10 points from your Heisman candidate quarterback, huh? Travis Hunter was good again. Travis Hunter is a really good he's a really good football player or basketball. It's 1:15 in the morning. The defense was better than I thought it would be. But what? 28-10? Are you excited about that? Is this offensive line what you wanted? Is this what you've been bragging about? I don't think Colorado fans are bad. I think you're in this state of being brainwashed. Like, come back, dude. Come back to being normal. If Deion leaves this offseason, which he will, was it worth it? Was this 4-8 and now this worth it? I don't think so. Based on the way you beat Nebraska last year, this was non-competitive. And it genuinely was. It shows regression. That's not good. It's not. And I'm done. I want Colorado. I wanted Colorado to be big. It was such a cool story. It'd be so cool if they were good. But your head coach was just mean to people, and you stunk. Kansas. I don't know. Is it Jeff Grimes? I don't know. Why? Why did the offense put up 17 points against Illinois? Half the output you did last year. A Brett Bielema-led Illinois team. It's not one of the better teams in the Big Ten. It's not a foe that a Kansas squad that I believe could have won the Big 12 championship. You can't. You can't. Did you watch the game? Did you watch Jalen Daniels? Did you watch the offensive line? And Devin Neal was good. Did you watch the defense, honestly? I didn't think the defense was terrible. But at the end, those last 10 points for Illinois, it's like, what about a stop, please? What? Like, this was, guys, I want to be a smart analyst. It wasn't a sexy pick to pick the school named Kansas in football this season. But the second you get momentum, you've got a stellar quarterback, a great receiving core, a stellar running back. That's the offensive output you give? 17 points? I don't know if you blame the new OC, Kotelnicki being gone. I don't know if Leipold takes blame. I don't know if it's the offensive line, play calling. I can't. I genuinely, having watched this game, just kept scratching my head and going, what? Why? Whoa. Like, your quarterback is too good to not be in an offensive groove at some point. That was pitiful. Really bad. If you're going to contend in the Big 12 and be a college football playoff caliber team, you can't do that. For other Big 12 teams that lost. Houston. Sorry. The officiating was tough, and that's just brutal. It reminds me of the Texas game last year where you think, okay, we could win this, and then you just don't. Houston might go 1-11, but it's going to be a very competitive 1-11, a la Baylor in 2017. And then 2 years later, that Baylor team went to the Sugar Bowl. That could very well be Houston. Speaking of Baylor, you scored 12 points. Your offense is bad. Utah has an elite defense, but man, Baylor, your offense is bad. DeQuan Finn was bad. Your offensive line's bad. Running back wise, Pendergrass is good. You have like four of those guys, 5 of those guys, but your quarterback's effectively running back. Wow. You brought in Jake Spavital for that. This is still, based on what I saw from Baylor in the first 20 minutes of this game, more than that, 25 minutes of this game, that's a 3-9 team. Okay. I graduated from there. Ooh, that doesn't make them better than 3-9. I like the heart, like the toughness, like the grit. Those three things, when the horses aren't in the stable, when I'm seeing videos of you punching holes in lockers post-game, when the culture's not there, okay. You're not going to win games. You have to win games to keep your job. I don't think Dave Aranda makes that a 2024. I don't think he does, and that's fine. I'm okay admitting that. Another guy who's definitely on the hot seat after this season. Sorry, I kind of like hook, line, and sinkered you there. I think Joey McGuire's on the hot seat after this season. Texas Tech might struggle to make a bowl game. If they don't, he's not fired. But is he a used car salesman? I've been around Joey. I like Joey. I thought hiring Joey was the best call Texas Tech could have made, and he immediately won games. But now I look around and go, The one-liners are sounding very one-linery. The recruiting is there, but you can't keep telling me, oh, well, we're recruiting really well. Oh, we're recruiting. So the teams are going to be good because we have good recruits. The 17-year-olds that are committed to you aren't on your team. They're not winning you any games right now. You just lost to Washington State and you got embarrassed doing so. You just lost to one of two Pac-12 teams that exists. 37-16. You were down at halftime 27-10. 34-10 going into the fourth quarter. It was an abysmal performance offensively. That was supposed to be good. Like, your offense is what's supposed to be good. Your defense stunk. If I had to hear that Washington State quarterback's name one more time running the football, you just let him go wherever he wanted. It's like at some point we look around the room and say, we should stop that guy from running. And no one at Texas Tech on the coaching staff did. Frustrating. Tech was frustrating. Colorado was. Of the teams that lost, Baylor was the one that I thought, you know what? And Houston, I guess. I thought, you know what? You showed heart and toughness. Those are schools. And now wow. On a weekend where the Big 12 had a very good showing. You guys really put that on? Ugh. And for those of you that won, I think it just shows that you've probably got, for many of you, got it much more put together than these squads that are dropping games that are confusing. On Locked On Big 12. Coming up, let's recap that BYU SMU game. I'm going to go game by game in depth the rest of the week, I think. And let's start with that one on Locked On Big 12, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Hey, today's show is brought to you by Ultimate GM. Look, Ultimate GM has been my favorite thing to play on airplanes recently because you can play it without service. That's right. Offline, baby. Ultimate College Football HC lets you be the head coach of Texas Tech or TCU or Baylor. From recruiting players and hiring coaching staff to overseeing training camps and handling school scholarships as well. It's all in your hands. What I really love is you also get to call plays. So you have a direct effect on winning games. Ultimate College Football HC is completely free. No ads. 100% playable offline. Use code LOCKEDONCFB, all caps, inside the game to get a free boost to your program. Download the game, visit ultimate-cfb.com or look it up in the app stores. Locked On CFB is that code to use. Ultimate College Football HC. Begin your coaching legacy and do it today. Predicting a BYU win was pretty easy for me and pretty easy for every BYU analyst. They're kind of supposed to. The host of Locked On Big 12 was supposed to as well. I lose nothing by picking BYU. However, it felt like after the defensive performance that the Cougars had last week, that with Jay Hill's acumen could be bottled up and recreated on a Friday night in Dallas. SMU had won 9 straight at home, averaging over 50 points in those games. And what BYU did is walk into their house and keep them from scoring a touchdown. Now, if I can be very honest with you, SMU, from a defensive standpoint, probably should have won this game. SMU's defense did enough to win this game. Had you told me pregame BYU will be held to 18 points, well, yeah. I mean, it's Rhett Lashley's offense. They're going to score. Jay Hill, a pedestal. That man, can you please, if you put a movie in front of me, if you put a Life Touch, is that a thing? A movie in front of me from Life Touch. I don't even know if that's a real thing. And are they the ones that do the yearbook pictures? Maybe I'm off there. And you put it in front of me and you say, this guy had a heart attack. And then 8 days later, is in the booth calling plays. I'm going to go, no, I don't believe that. We can make the plot a little more believable. It's what happened in real life. Jay Hill, the defensive coordinator for BYU, had a heart attack. Like, his heart was not pumping blood a week ago. And that man just kept SMU out of the end zone the entire night at their home stadium. Chills thinking about that. And then across the way, Aaron Roderick, what are you doing? 18 points against an SMU defense that allowed 20 plus against Nevada is not going to cut it. I'm not here to talk about the negatives. I'm not here to say that Jake Retzlaff didn't have a great game either. I could definitely rag on him. The interceptions were not good. The fumble was not good. He has been a turnover machine when he's played. Did he deserve to get benched? No. And maybe that sounds kind of weird to you. I don't think that he was put in very fair situations by his offensive coordinator. And guess what? You want to know something crazy? The same thing was happening last year. This is nothing new. I was shocked. I did a whole show in the offseason about how Aaron Roderick, A-Rod as he's called, should be fired. And I think tonight you saw an example of why that's maybe still the case. Last week, we weren't talking about that. Last week, we were saying they beat a very good FCS team, and they did. However, this week, one of my major takeaways is that Aaron Roderick was not it. And guess who was? Jay Hill. Jay Hill was a stunning addition to BYU when he came in, and has continued to be, and has elevated his program to become a defensive juggernaut through 2 games. That's a small sample size. I cannot give you that BYU is going to be a defensive juggernaut in the Big 12, but what we've gotten in these last 2 games has been, I think stunning is the right word to use. Retzloff, 200 yards, a touchdown, a couple interceptions. Running the football, I don't, is it going to be by committee again? I'm just confused. SMU was held to 261 yards at their own place. SMU had 144 pass yards. People were talking preseason about Preston Stone possibly being in the Heisman conversation. He was 2 for 4 for 4 yards and had to be benched for a kid that none of us had ever heard of, Kevin Jennings, who was 15 for 32. A 3-man rush from BYU could get to the quarterback. The defense of the Cougars up front was impeccable. It was almost like, and correct me if I'm wrong, in the way Kalani Sitake reacted to this game, like he's pissed. Everybody's kind of collectively pissed that the offense looked the way that it did. And you should be. But still, as 12, if you're like, can I say something? I'm sorry. I know offensive coordinators personally. Plenty of them in college football are friends with their families. They're real people. Like A-Rod's a real person. But I can't, at some point, you have to look around the room and say, are we choir boys? Are we nice guys? Are we being kind to the human beings in the room? Or are we winning football games? Like, I've got to shoot you straight. The offense for BYU did not win this game. And I did not think that Jake Retzloff, I thought he did enough. Retzloff did enough, obviously, to get the W. But the defense is what did it. And if the offense was remotely competent, BYU puts up 30 against SMU. And they should have done that. And you know what the best part of this whole thing is? I'm yelling at you now, passionately. Here's the best part of this whole thing. As upset as I am with the BYU offense, they won the game. They were 12-point underdogs. That moved to like 10, bounced back to 12, and BYU got it done. There's not enough good I can say about Jay Hill, and there's not enough that I can tell you about A-Rod that I didn't already say last season that we're still dealing with here. The couple 4th down calls, that first 4th down call, like what? How many times on 3rd and 1, 4th and 1, 3rd and 2, 4th and 2, can we just run it up the middle before you go, they're going to run it up the middle again? Not to say it was a complete failure for that side of the ball and BYU, but it was not it is not going to let you compete in the Big 12. However, it's going to let you compete against an ACC school. Can we, like, I'm looking at the crowd on TV and it's just BYU East. Like they have the missionaries, the elders and sisters come out at halftime and perform. And you're going, that's like half the stadium's on the field right now. That is really sad for the ACC. I can only imagine Brett Yormark is there going, glad I didn't add these cats. And the ACC is looking at SMU going, what are you doing? You're paying us to be here. Can you try not to embarrass us? They would consider a loss to BYU to be an embarrassment. But this was a culture win for the Cougars. This was everybody kind of point at the offensive coordinator and laugh and say, we're going to win in spite of you. Because, buddy, what I saw from the tight ends to the receivers to the heart and effort of Jake Retzloff, who I cannot fault for playing so hard. What I saw was a team that won the game in spite of a human being, that human being being A-Rod. And Sitake is going to have to answer for that. Kalani is going to have to answer for that. A-Rod's going to have to answer for that. And Jay Hill needs just a huge, not promotion's the wrong word, because you can't be like, can we go from defensive coordinator to mega defensive coordinator? He needs a huge bonus just based on this game, last week's game. Now BYU gets Wyoming that Arizona State blew the doors off of, and all of a sudden, you're 3 games away from a bowl game. And I don't think that gives immunity to your offensive coordinator. This was cool, man. A funky, wacky game where you're just hoping that BYU's defense holds on, and they do. I am so very impressed with what BYU put on the field tonight in Dallas. And as somebody who picked BYU to win, hoping, like, oh, yeah, you know, they had 17 first downs, 2 for 13 on third downs. What? 134 rushing yards, 202 passing yards. What? That's not great. 3 turnovers, but I'll be darned if the defense wasn't spectacular. And if this wasn't a gritty, hard-nosed win. And when you're if there's one thing I'm going to, like, I would rather have you win this game. Texas Tech. The defense didn't win the game for Texas Tech against Abilene Christian. The offense obviously did, 52-51. BYU's defense won this game. And if that is a tell on your team, it's a good thing. It's a good thing. If your defense is what wins you games, you're going to be scary in the Big 12 Conference this season. I still think BYU goes to a bowl game despite a very tough schedule. Today's show is brought to you by FanDuel. FanDuel helped me out a lot because I am in Iowa. I'm in Iowa. And in Iowa, you can put $75 in the BYU money line. But cash it. Hit. Yep. Count it. Thank you, BYU Cougars. That's like $275 in yours truly's pocket at FanDuel.com. That's exactly what I wanted, buddy. Thank you. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, is where you can go right now. They have a special for all our listeners this weekend. FanDuel's Profit Boost in the app lets you use it for FanDuel's double your winnings for all Sunday on September 8th. Pre-game moneyline bets. Profit Boost will be live starting this Friday, actually. So it's live. View your account page now to learn more about your boost. FanDuel.com. Download America's #1 sportsbook. Get a boost with FanDuel.com and $5 bet now through September 22nd. FanDuel customers get 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. No better time to join FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, than right now. BYU wins. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, that's all. I'm Locked On. Thanks for making it your first listen every single day. Dose Grande.